Just when I thought I couldn't find my way out, yeah, I searched the God in me to find my way out. I know it can seem way out, but the Creator flows to and through me from way out. I'm talking way out, yeah. See, if you believe in the God in you, it's a better place. Creating the force and the power to live a better life. Know that love and joy and peace is one in all of the same space. That you were chosen just like God. Your energy. That's right. Only you can make the change. Shine your head at you. Shine so bright from darkness to light. From darkness to light. Yeah. And you'll find your way out. Oh, it won't seem way out. The power of God will flow through you from way out.
Welcome. This is Alchemizing Energy, and today we are here with Baba Awo Falokun, and we are trying to discuss head cleanings and protection in the IFA tradition. So this is a part of a series where we discuss IFA divination and the actual general understanding of the IFA, way of life. And so without further ado, thank you so much, Baba, for coming today.
Thank you always. Yeah, you're doing a great job here. I'm impressed. I like your, I used to call it bumper music, your introduction there. Some nice music, some nice images. Let me do introductory prayer, if you don't mind. Agbo Ato, blessing of long life. Akabo, welcome. Adupoi Ori Egun, we thank the ancestors for their wisdom. Ire Lona Alapia Wae, we pray for peace on earth. I got to think about it in your book. Yes, Ire Lona Ologbon, we pray for the wisdom for the manifestation of justice. There was a recent Supreme Court ruling around voting rights that seems to give a green light to the forces of racism and exclusion. That's shameful. Here's what I want to say about that. There are people that have been appointed to the Supreme Court that clearly have been compromised based on the Epstein files. Those files have implications beyond what the mainstream media is talking about, and we've got our work cut out for us to reclaim the justice that is our birthright. In the 60s and the 70s, I was active politically and legally dealing with civil rights issues. I worked on the defense of almost all of the Black Panther cases in Oakland in the 70s, and I worked on some of the First Nation, the AIM, American Indian Movement cases. I defended Angela Davis, among others. So I back in the day, I thought we were making some progress. I look back and we're back to square one. It's kind of discouraging for an old man, but I'm trying to keep the faith, trying to keep positive. So let's look at the issue of how we stay protected in the face of foolishness, let's call it. So we need to start with a couple of ideas, and I'm going to lead to a main point, which is really, really crucial to psychic self-protection, I believe. So let's start with this idea. IFA teaches that ideas take up space in the world. And as we have a thought, that thought's going to extend from our physical body and be kind of held in place by our aura. And that, the reason we sometimes click with people and get, let's say, don't click with people, let's just say that, is because the content of our aura is either sympathetic or not sympathetic. Okay, pretty simple. So in order to maintain an ongoing discipline of spiritual growth, it's important to clean our auras because if we don't, then we tend to look at the world through the lens of our dysfunction, if that makes sense. I use an example. If we've been severely traumatized as children, we sometimes will go out of our body to avoid the trauma, and then the memory of that trauma gets suppressed. And hold on, the effort to remember to not remember, the effort to continue to suppress the idea becomes problematic. So I'm sorry about that. Someone's trying to call me. Oh.
Yeah, so basically, so let me just restate that we're with the conversation, the discussion that we're having here is about how to protect yourself, how to in different ways that a person can protect themselves in in or just in general, to protect their spirit, protect their mind state, etc. Um, it's one
Yeah.
thing people think about, just like that people do things to people. Sometimes you're doing it to yourself mentally. And
Yeah.
then how do you protect oneself? How does one protect yourself? Let's go.
Yes, that's an important distinction. We're gonna get into that in a minute, but let's start with some straight up psychic protection methodologies and technologies, I would call it. For those that aren't initiated, it's really, really common, certainly in Native American spiritual practice, to clean your aura with smoke. Uh, Very commonly, very traditionally, that's done with sage. Sage is both creates smoke that cleans out the aura, but it also creates an aroma that is a bit elevating. So it's really a good all-purpose herb for a spiritual cleaning. Typically, the herb is placed in a big seashell and it's just lit, and the smoke is fanned with a feather. Um,
Here's a question about the sage, right? Some people say that sage not only cleanses the person, but it clears everything out of the house. Like if you do have spirits in the house,
I,
it'll clear even your own friendly spirits in this sense.
absolutely, absolutely, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. You can always invite the friendly spirits in, but having a clean slate is a good foundation for spiritual work always, even when it comes to mm, removing any influence at all. So you can really be clear about who you are, what you feel, what you're drawing in, what you're addressing, what you're looking at, what you're attempting to fix. Sometimes I'd say most of the time, that's best addressed from what I'm calling a clean slate. Also, in terms of sage, IFA teaches that the best herbs to use for any ritual are those herbs that are that are grown and within walking distance of where you live. Now, sage is not that common throughout all of America. I was blessed to live in New Mexico for a number of years, and sage was everywhere, so it was easy to pick, cultivate, and use, and it was extremely effective. But most sage works. It's also as quietly as it's kept. It's the reason why the Catholic Church uses incense, and certainly incense is also used in Eastern traditions. So it's a common enough practice and simple enough to do. If you are part of the spiritual discipline of IFA, I want to talk about that a little bit. This might be a little technical for some of the viewers who are not initiated, but some of the things I'm going to share can be used whether you're initiated or not. So in IFA, there's a thing called Abori, Abori, from the Elysian Ebo Ori, meaning making an offering to the head. All right. So whenever we work with, there we go, Abori, it's all one word, Abori. Uh, um, whenever we do spiritual work in IFA, we always mark the Odu that supports the spiritual work. So for those that have an IFA tray and are sanctioned to work with the tray, if you're doing abori for yourself or others, you want to mark 3 Odus on the IFA tray. You mark Ofun Meji, Ofun Ogbe, and EJ Ogbe. Those are marked from right to left. And the way you do it in traditional IFA is you mark the Odus with these 2 fingers. This is for 1 line. This is for 2 lines. And they're marked in this order: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and so on. All right. So it's a pattern that's fairly easy to remember. It's 3 double lines, 3 single lines, 3 double lines, 3 single lines, 6 single lines, 3 double lines, 3 single lines, 6 single lines. And so that's before you start the head cleaning, you would say Iba Ofun Meji, Iba Ofun Ogbe, Iba Ije Ogbe. And so you're calling the metaphysical principles that IFA teaches give birth to or incarnate the consciousness of everybody. So when we're doing a head cleaning, we want to work with those 3 Odus. For those that are familiar with the patterns of Odu, Ofun and Ogbe, that's the alpha and omega. It's the beginning and the end. Those 2 Odus really form bookmarks around all the metaphysical principles contained, we believe, in creation. There you go. So EJ Ogbe is on the top. Let me look at this one. Where is Ofun on there? It should be on the bottom somewhere. EJ Ogbe, I don't see it. That's odd. In any case,
I think it's all right by Okanron, right underneath. I think that's Ofun.
So Yanko there. Oh, there it is. Yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So EJ Ogbe on the top, and then Ofun is on the right side towards the bottom before Irete and after Okanron. Yes. Okay. Exactly. So those 2 Odus. The EJ Ogbe represents perfect alignment with your destiny, and Ofun represents a blessing from the Creator. So those are the 2 principles we're working with in terms of head cleaning. So you would mark those markings on the tray, and then you would say the Ariki. Do you have that punched in here, the Ariki? All right, so I'm going to do this. There we go. This is an Ariki we say in the morning. Emi Maji Lonio Mo Fori Bale Folorun. Now that I'm waking up, I give respect to the realm of the ancestors. Bring me much good fortune. The next one is a little more potent for the issue of cleaning the head. Do we have the next one we can put up there? So, here we go. Yeah, okay. So this is the one I use at least once a week with the Odus. Actually, every 4 days is part of the cycle. And as you say it, you literally want to clean the energy around your head. You can usually just use your hands, or you can use water, or to clean the head as you say it. I'm going to speak it in Yoruba first, and then we'll go into the translation a little bit. Oriso mi, oriso igede, ori otonso miki ni owolowo, ori otonso miki ni molemo, ori otonso miki ni aya, ori otonso miki mkole amole, oriso mio, alama ajiki iwa ni mope. Now that's what we call the Ariki long form. I get it. If you didn't grow up speaking Yoruba, memorizing these prayers can be a bit challenging. So we make use at times of what I call the Ariki short form. So the short form would be the first 4 sentences in this case. It would be Oriso mi, Oriso mi, Oriso nigede, Oriso nigede. If you can memorize that, then you have an oriki or a prayer or an invocation that you can use for cleaning your head when you're out in the street, when you feel confused, upset, sad, disappointed, whatever negative emotion you want to clean away from. You can use those 2 phrases. They're each repeated. Oriso mi is literally saying, it's translated here, inner spirit guide me, but it's really inner spirit flow through me, guide me, flow through me, be at the forefront of my consciousness is what you're saying there. And so once you've said the oriki, you breathe onto the odu on the tray, and then you do what's called close the odu. You take the erosum from the top of the tray, push it towards the middle, push it from the bottom towards the center, and from each side to the middle, and you take a little pinch, you rub it over your head and drop a little on your tongue. That's called passing ashe. That's actually the simplest and the most common and the most universal form of abo or offering. It's both a head cleaning and an offering to the head, abori, hence the name abori. All right. So that's like one of our basic fundamental tools. It's like step 1 in any IFA healing toolkit. The next thing that can be done is to ask our ancestors to protect us. In IFA, we have an Eshu called Shigidi. Eshu is a messenger spirit. We can ask Eshu Shigidi to send our warrior ancestors to our house to protect us, to stay close to all of our loved ones, to really walk with us in the course of the day. If you were not given Shigidi, you can invoke it by marking Odi Ogbe on the tray. Let me draw that for folks. Give me a second here. So if you have Ifa, you know the Odus. Odi Ogbe is the Odu that incarnates Shigidi. Shigidi is the Eshu for calling our warrior ancestors. The Oriki is Baba Akiti Biti, Baba Akiti. Oh, Akiti, that's misspelled there, sorry. Baba Akiti, it's Akiti Biti. I think I gave that to you wrong, sorry. But Baba Akiti Biti is the way it's pronounced. Baba Akiti Biti, just say that twice. There's a longer version of that Oriki. It's significantly longer. If you have a Pega's book of Odu, it's the first verse in Odi Ogbe. You can read the entire verse as a longer form of that. Usually, if you're going to invoke Shigidi, you want to do that in front of your ancestor shrine. It's Aki Aki Ti Biti. Boy, I really botched that. Sorry. Let me write it correctly here. There it is. Akiti Biti. Akiti Biti literally translates to the family of the brave. All right. So Baba Akiti.
It's the father of the family of the brave.
Akiti, it's from the Egyptian Akin, A-K-I-N, meaning brave.
You're calling Baba first, right? So does that mean father?
Yeah, Baba. I'm sorry, father of the brave members of the extended families. How's that translates?
Okay.
And that can be men and women, believe me. So that's a call for ancestral warrior spirits. Okay, so when you call those spirits, they tend to work on automatic pilot. You can invoke them, and they're extremely potent, and you can be assured that they got your back and the back of your family, your entire family. When I first set up Shigadi in my backyard in my house in Oakland, I set it up and I went in the house and I heard all this commotion in the backyard. And I saw about a dozen cops chasing I later found out a burglar through backyards headed directly towards my house, right? And as soon as the guy they were chasing grabbed a hold of my fence in my backyard, the whole fence came undone and the fence fell on him and he never entered the yard. The police never entered the yard. It was like a perfect manifestation of protection. It really left an amazing impression on me about how effective that particular spirit is. All right. Wow. So the third thing I want to go into, then I want to talk a little bit about the philosophy of protection here. The third thing is Ogun. We can ask for protection for Ogun. If you have Ogun, you can mark Ogun Demente on the tray. Again, I'll draw that. Ogun Demente invokes the spirit of Ogun. I'm going to do a shameless plug here. I have a book called Oriki. It's a book of invocations. It has at least 6 Oriki for Ogun. They're all effective. This is the Odu that you mark when you're invoking Ogun. So the short form Ogun Oriki, Iba Ogun, Ogun Owo, Onile Kangun, Kangun Orun. That means the spirit of iron knows the mystery of many homes in heaven. A road is considered a home of the spirit of Ogun. Ogun created roads historically, changing humanity from hunter-gatherers to people building cities and civilization. So Ogun protects family and friends and so on. But one of the best ways to work with Ogun as a protective spirit is to make what's called a protective charm. So you take a piece of red cloth about the size of a playing card, all right? And then on the red cloth, so you mark Ogun Demente on the tray. You take the piece of red cloth and you put some cotton on the red cloth. Traditionally, obviously, raw cotton is traditional. If you have to use cotton balls from the drugstore, not as good, but will work. All right. So then you take a small nail and you put the nail on the cotton. And then you take not more than 2 drops of palm oil. You sprinkle on the nail. And then you do the Oriki Ogun. You close the Odu. Sprinkle a little of the Rosun on the nail, on the palm oil on the nail. And then you roll the red cloth up like a cigarette or a joint, and then you tie it with red cloth, and that's a protection charm, which then you can carry. I usually carry it in my wallet. You can carry it in your shoe. You can pin it to your underwear. There's different things you can do, and you can make more than one. You can make as many as you want and put them in any places that you want. And I find that to be very, very effective. All right. So yeah, is that all clear so far? I think.
So what does that mainly? What does Ogun mainly protect when he is invoked? What does he protect?
Yeah, Ogun will protect you from violence, essentially. Ogun. It sounds a little strange, but if you invoke Ogun effectively in the street, people will back up because they'll feel the energy. So we have a number of options here. We have cleaning the head with abori, so that you're clear-headed and don't become self-destructive in any way. We have shigidi, which is calling the spirits of the ancestors. And then we have Ogun, who's literally the spirit of iron, the spirit who makes weapons. It's really the spirit of warfare. Yeah, you've heard the phrase "seeing red." If you get touched by Ogun in a moment when you're threatened in any way, Ogun will take action with absolutely no hesitation, with no fear, and with no reluctance. I mean, that seeing red is literally accessing the adrenaline to get the job done. Seeing red, Ogun in Africa, his color is red, not green and black. Red represents the adrenaline of Ogun as a warrior. And once you've been touched by Ogun's warrior power, then it's traditional for Oshun to bring the person back, usually by having them taste a little honey and putting water on their head, cooling the person down.
Wow. So yeah, that is because you do see, you see red, or you heard a person blacked out. Red, they black out, or they red, red out. When they.
Yeah, listen, I've had the experience of seeing red, losing consciousness, waking up, and seeing that I had effectively defended myself against an attack. It's very strange,
Right.
but it's part of the way. It's part of the way we're wired as human beings.
Right.
So listen, here's what I want to talk about now, with your permission here. I'd like to speak about a concept called Ele-Nini. Do you have the spelling on that? E-L-E. Oh, there you go. Ele-Nini. What that translates to, the house that is because it is. All right. So that doesn't make a lot of sense in English, but the inference is this is a self-generated demon that has no existence beyond the ability of consciousness to project itself into the world. All right. So a lot of people don't understand this or believe this, but human thoughts can become manifest in the world. So it's possible to create spirits that are negative and self-destructive that aren't real. It's an important idea. In European paganism and Wicca and witchcraft, we call it, Ele-Nini is similar to the concept of egregorius, which is again a self-generated demon. Also, believe it or not, Ele-Nini in European traditions is associated with what's called a Jabberwocky, which is again another self-generated demon that lives in the back of the human neck. The expression pain in the neck is definitely a reference to the idea of creating a demon that lives in your physical body. All right. So how does this happen, and why do we need to be careful of it? The easiest example is we've all known people who will do something horrible, and then they'll swear the devil made them do it. I'm sorry, I'm not always convinced that is true. IFA teaches that we have to take responsibility for our own actions, and that we need to, in other words, if we're doing something that's causing people to dislike us, the solution to that is stop the action that's causing people to dislike us. The other option is to say, oh, other people don't understand me. They're being negative. They're disliking me because they're mean and jealous and all kinds of stuff. Well, if that's not true, you've got an ongoing problem. And the problem with El Nini is a self-generated demon, which if you don't recognize that it's self-generated, it can never be cleaned away. Believe me, if you're doing spiritual work and somebody comes to you saying, I'm being hexed by this boogeyman, and the boogeyman is an El Nini, anything you do to clean it away, the mind of the person who's generated the El Nini is going to create a new manifestation of that spirit in which whatever you did was ineffective. So it becomes an endless cycle of ineffective cleaning, ineffective efforts to dispel the spirit, ineffective efforts at I forgot the word now, but ineffective efforts at getting rid of the spirit.
So could childhood trauma, would that be a felony? Like something that happened?
No, not per se, but childhood trauma can generate El Nini. If the child, this is a really touchy and hard situation and a common situation, which is why understanding El Nini is so important. If you were, for example, abused by a relative, and you don't want to admit that, or you can't admit that, or your family won't hear it, or if talking about it then becomes a threat to the stability of the family, then you've got to create alternative scenarios, which are not necessarily real. But there's also another factor that plays in here. If you've ever done any reading on devil possession, I don't know if you're familiar with that topic, but the Catholic Church has a lot of literature and a lot of
people have to get exorcisms, and they have
exorcism, being possessed by the devil.
Yeah.
The literature on that subject shows clearly that 90% of the children who go through demonic possession are victims of incest.
What?
And that being possessed by the devil is an effort to scare away the perpetrator of the sexual abuse.
What?
90% of the children who are undergoing demonic possession are, according to psychological studies, the victims of incest, and the possession by the demon is the child's effort to scare away the perpetrator of the violence.
That is insane. You know what? Have you ever heard of the one girl who had that demonic possession, and she ended up dying because they kept doing? And there was a whole thing whether or not she was having a mental like schizophrenia versus actually being possessed.
Listen, but in IFA that wouldn't happen because we do not believe in the devil, so you can't be possessed by the devil. So if you claim to be possessed by the devil, a good Awo will automatically assume it's El Nini. So the first step in clearing away the El Nini is to figure out the source of the fear. IFA healing is all based on calling black, black, and red, red. When I was initiated 38 years ago now, after the initiation, I told the man who initiated me, Araba Adesanya Alboyade, that I wanted to write a book about IFA, and I said, Baba, I'm going to quote you. You can say whatever you want. Whatever you tell me now, I'll put in the book and then put it in your words, and this is your chance to speak to the IFA community who might look at my book. What do you want to tell them, right? And he pointed, right? He said, you tell people in the diaspora that are practicing IFA that the most important thing they can do is call red, red, and black, black. And that was all he wanted to say to people practicing IFA. And I thought, what the hell does that mean? But and here's what it means. If you have a broken carburetor, you can change the muffler 100 times and you still have a broken carburetor.
Right.
You can't fix a problem until you properly identify it. And I would go one step further and say that in my practice and my experience, once you properly identify a problem, you're 90% down the road of fixing it.
Mm.
But until you properly identify it, you've got no chance in hell of fixing the problem.
Mm.
So this
Right.
problem, yeah. So if you're part of a community that feeds the idea that demonic possession is real, feeds the idea that the devil made you do it, and feeds the idea that demonic forces are disruptive in the world and not self-generated, that collective effort creates a demon that manifests in the physical world.
Mm. Mm.
Let me say, yeah, go ahead.
You know what's so funny about that is that like a lot of times in church, like not just the devil making the person do it, but they'll say that that's a demon, or it's a lot of spookiness. So do you think that IFA, that the spooky aspect of it is there a lot of spookism in IFA, or is it more in the church, or when it comes to spookiness?
Yeah, listen, there's a lot of spookiness in IFA and the diaspora, and I maintain, and I've said it many times, we've had this conversation before, that is influenced by Christianity and not by the prophet or Romeo.
Mm.
People in Africa, in my experience, recognize an LA Nini, and they won't give it any play. In other words, if somebody's generating a demon in an effort to avoid taking responsibility for a problem that they don't want to deal with, the elders won't give them that slack. They'll bring them back to calling red, red, and black, black, and they're unrelenting about it. And because the communities are so tightly knit, you can't do like you can do in the diaspora. And if your elder won't believe you that you're possessed by the devil, you just have to go down the street and get a new elder, and they'll believe it for $900. You know, so we don't have that kind of.
For $900, I believe that you're possessed.
Yeah, absolutely. And
we'll do an imaginary ceremony.
And for $9,000, I'll clean it away from you. You know, I call that the paper tiger syndrome. Have you ever heard of the paper tiger syndrome?
No, I haven't heard of that.
Oh, well, paper tiger is a non-existent demon who you create, and then you have the power to clean it away because it never existed in the first place. So we want to be careful of that syndrome, because once it becomes locked in and takes on a collective form, it's insidious. We can see that now with politics. The demonization of people of color by the current administration is insidious. And it has no basis in reality. And it's creating division that's unimaginable, and there's no fix because it's not rational. You talk to a mega supporter and say, you know, this is some serious foolishness you're trying to pass off as reality. They won't hear you. There's no logic involved. It's an emotional attachment to the resistance to actually dealing with real problems.
You know, so Obatala is the head of people that are like mental ill, right? Is that the Orisha?
Not quite. Obatala is the guardian of those that have mental illness. Anybody can have any Orisha who's got mental illness problems, but Obatala is the energy, let's call it, for healing that.
Mm. So, when do you know that it's Elanini and it's not? Is schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, or, you know, because those.
Yeah, listen, for me, it's fairly obvious, and that may not be true for everybody. But if you have any doubt at all, somebody comes and said, okay, I'm being possessed by a negative spirit, you do the Ori cleaning, the Abori that I showed you, which is profoundly effective if it's really an issue. Then you can invoke the ancestors through Shikidi to protect the person, and then you can invoke Ogun to make sure that negativity stays away from them. If you've done all three of those things in a sincere way, and the problem gets worse, you're about 99% certain you're dealing with an LA Nini and not a real demon.
Mm. So do you consider like mental illness a demonic thing, force, or is it?
Never. That's a horrible thing to do. Mental illness has a genesis in a number of things. One of the things that creates mental illness is family abuse that's not acknowledged.
Mm.
A common source of mental illness is a father who rapes their daughter. The daughter tells the mother, and the mother doesn't believe them. That'll cause mental illness in a blink of an eye. And I'm not trying to say it's only a woman's problem. That's not my point. That's an easy example. You understand?
Right.
Mental illness comes when there's a really good book that I recommend to everybody called Homecoming by John Bradshaw. John Bradshaw developed a school of psychology called inner child work. And in the book Homecoming, he identifies what every human being needs at every stage of development, right? So a newborn baby needs to be fed, they need to be clothed, they need to be cleaned. They can do nothing for themselves, right? And as we gain skills in our development as a child, our needs shift.
Mm-hmm.
You know, by the time we're 2 years old, we can start feeding ourselves, we can start walking. 2 and 3, if I remember correctly, we can start going to the bathroom on our own. And so the needs that we have change. Mm. And Bradshaw argues that if those needs are not provided, it creates profound insecurity, profound fear, and it really generates the seeds of what you're calling craziness. In Yoruba, the word for crazy is wahala. So the interesting thing for me is
trouble. Like wahala means problems, right?
Wahala can mean a number of things in diaspora, but it's related to mental challenges in Yoruba. But here's the thing that's amazing about traditional Yoruba culture is if a child is experiencing a lack of nurturing that's appropriate to their age, that need will show up during a dance ceremony. In other words, if you go to, for example, in Ode Reno, there's usually a dance ceremony of some kind every week. Excuse me, for different orisha. Mm-hmm. And the younger people, I'm saying teenagers and maybe young adults, will dance. And the grandparents will form a circle around the children who are dancing and identify who needs help by their inability to dance, let's say, freely and with fluidity. In other words, you know, the old joke, white folks can't dance. Well, there's a certain there's a certain truth to that in the sense of repression that's common in European culture shows up in the way white folks move. You know, and so and Carl Jung affirmed that. It was amazing. So the point is there's a diagnostic element in
the dance.
In the dance that allows people to see who needs help, and those kids will be taken to the elders, and the problem will be identified and resolved. The other thing that's huge in terms of mental illness is there's a major shift in consciousness that occurs at puberty. Human history for thousands of years has recognized that shift, and they've created puberty rites to facilitate the change from child to adult. In the West, bless their hearts, the Christian church has demonized the puberty rite and we don't do them. So what we have, and you'll know this if you're a diviner or somebody that does healing, 90% of the people that come to me with a problem are children in adult bodies. So not only is that puberty right now addressed, people don't even know what the issues are at puberty. For men, when a man hits teenage years and is able to generate sperm that'll make a child, when he hits that threshold, there's hormonal changes that occur that literally cause him to worry about, do I have what it takes to protect my wife and children? That becomes an all-encompassing concern at puberty, which is why young men at puberty end up getting in fights and join gangs, and all kinds of violence kicks in because there's confusion about the issue of, can I protect my wife and children as I get older? So what the grandfathers do is they create an environment to test that in children. They'll have organized like martial art contests. People don't believe it, but the IFA has his own martial arts. At puberty, you engage in it and you learn it. And you begin to see what you can do and what you can't do, how you can defend your family. But the ultimate test for men at puberty, right, is facial scar. They'll take a red hot poker and press it against your face, and if you flinch, you flunk.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. And, I see in the diaspora women with facial marks, and that's not traditional. Women don't get facial marks. Facial marks are for men, and they're used traditionally to identify your family so that when you're in battle, you know who the bad guys are. In Africa, people don't have military uniforms. The facial marks determines who's friend and who's foe. And so at puberty, that's part of the rite of passage to determine if you are a man of courage or not, And if you really flunk that test badly, there's no shame and no blame, but you're not included in the warrior society. You understand? So that's another long subject. But so really, in some ways, I believe that you can't really effectively be initiated without having a puberty rite first. I believe that a naming ceremony, puberty rite, and a relationship ritual are as important, if not more important, than initiation. And until you resolve those issues, your ability to be effective as an adult and as a priest. How can you be a priest guiding others when you got unresolved childhood issues that you're dealing with? And here's the answer. You can't. Let me say that again. If you haven't resolved your own stuff, how can you help anybody else? And the answer is you can't. All you can do is project your conflicts to other people and pretend like you're all-knowing wise poo-poo, and it's not true. So the book Homecoming, I recommend to everybody that comes to me for IFA training, because at the end of each chapter, there's a visualization and a meditation where you identify those needs that were not provided at certain ages in your life. And then we can use John Bradshaw. We can use divination to determine how we can do cleanings that will address those issues of those unfulfilled developmental problems, really, and the issue has really become epidemic in the diaspora, and on purpose. By not having a rite of passage, the few who control the many can manipulate people really easily. I mean, the manipulation, we talked about it today, not letting Black folks vote. How is that not a manipulation? How does that not how does that not create conflict? How is that not divide and conquer? There's no healing in that. There's no community in that. There's no empathy in that. There's no reconciliation in that. There's no access to unconditional love in that. And as long as people are in conflict, confusion, and pain, it's really easy to manipulate because you offer a solution. Now, what we're going through now is The people that are in the worst pain around those issues have been offered a solution. It's called a red hat with the word mega on it, like that's going to fix anything. But I'm suggesting that the real fix may be more complicated than that. And we need to look at that and to begin to take that seriously and that's the whole point of Odu Ifa. It tells us how to resolve those childhood conflicts. Every verse is about that. It's about expanding consciousness, owning our inner spirit, and becoming in alignment with our destiny. It's not about blaming others because the devil made me do it. There's not a single verse that co-signs that, endorses that, says that's true, and says that that's okay. Not one. So the extent to which we're believing that and talking about that and making up rituals that support that idea is the extent to which we're just shooting ourselves in the foot.
And they have these things where I know that in the diaspora, I'm not sure if that happens in Africa, where people will use candles and burn a candle and it's returns the cinder and all the different things like this. Is that exist in traditional Ifa, like burning candles?
Yeah, listen, here's a news flash. I've been to Africa 6 times. I have never seen a candle anywhere.
Period. Not just in general, but not even just to light up sometimes they put it on the altar or
no, what they do, they make lamps. What a lamp looks like is a flat terracotta plate filled with palm oil, and then you take cotton and twist it, and you put the cotton in the palm oil and you light it, and it makes a lamp. But it's not a candle. I've never seen a candle in Africa. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm saying I've never seen one. I've certainly never seen one in a ritual in Africa.
So where do you think candle work comes from? Is that like something different? Like where does the candles come from?
Are you kidding me? That's from the Catholic Church. What we're calling African spirituality is largely Catholicism rebranded. I mean, hello. Sorry, but
so like does the Shango can't? But you know what? Now that I think about it, they do be having pictures of the saints on there and Jesus, and if you actually get those candles from the grocery store, it'll have pictures of the saints on them.
See, you're answering your own question, aren't you?
So hold on. Do Catholics like these candles? They have rituals where they light those candles and stuff to like Jesus and Saint Mary and this, that, the other? What is the purpose? So what is the purpose of that? To get like some kind of blessing from Jesus using the candle?
Well, yeah, but they have what they call intermediaries that take prayers to Jesus and then take the answers and bring them back to earth. If you look at the heavily Catholic influenced tradition of Santeria, the first step in initiation in Santeria is to do a mass. And at the mass, you light candles for your good fortune. Hello.
I did go to they did take me to the Catholic Church and they had dolls of the different saints inside of the church where people were lining up and going to like these dolls.
And listen, and believe me, that's fine. If you like it, I love it. It's not wrong. I'm not denying the fact that we have religious freedom. What I am saying is it's not traditional Ifa as it's practiced in Africa. It is Ifa as it's practiced in the diaspora, and people.
There's a heavy Catholic.
Exactly, and people think I'm being overly critical. I'm not. My point is that I prefer the African way of doing things because that's what I was trained with. That's what I was brought up with. And the truth is, when I went to Africa, I expected to go to Africa and ask to be initiated, and I fully expected folks in Africa to say no based on the fact that I was of European ancestry. The issue of my ancestry never came up in Africa, as ever, not once, anywhere. In the diaspora, it comes up every time I go out in public as a priest, every time. So we've got different cultural expectations, different levels of healing, different ways of dealing with it. Now, I get it. The history of racism in the diaspora is different than the history of racism in Africa, and it's created some deep wounds and some deep conflicts that have not been addressed in the IFA community or in the community at large. You know, to me, the whole Epstein thing is the refusal of white folks to take responsibility for the fact that they were viciously cruel sexually to slaves. And until that issue is addressed, we can't expect anything but Epstein and pedophilia and that kind of sexual abuse, because it's the issue of hurt people hurt people. If your great grandfather abused slaves and treated you accordingly, you're going to pass that ashe down to your children. That's just the nature of the way we develop psychologically. It's the nature of how we pass information through our DNA. The issue of pedophilia, as it's represented in the Epstein files, is a issue of generational alteration of DNA that sets up a scenario where El Nini are created that make it all right to rape children. And the only way you're going to change that is to address the issue directly. You don't change it by pretending it didn't happen. You don't change it by having Pam Bondi say, we can't deal with this because the whole government will fall apart. You can't fix it by having Kash Patel say the only person that sexually exploited children was Jeffrey Epstein. None of that. None of that. None of that. You understand? If you don't believe me, you know, slavery was generated by the few who control the many and was institutionalized by 4 banking families. Do we know the banking families?
Rothschild, the J.P. Morgan Chase.
No, the Rothschild was one. Oppenheimer was another. Wahlberg was one. And you know what the 4th family was that financed slavery? It was called Epstein.
What?
Yes. This is a generational issue that goes back into the very origins of life in America. And if we don't deal with it on that level, it's not going to get fixed.
You know, they were talking about like some of the craziest things that they did on those boats. Like there was a whole insurance thing just to be able to throw hundreds of people off of the boat because of insurance was still covered. So there was like a whole thing that
yeah, listen, the crimes of slavery are, I don't want to go into it right now, but they're heinous, they're horrible, they're rarely talked about, and they're mostly of a sexual nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the whole thing with lynching was about white men telling black men they were inappropriate with white women. There's a sexual underpinning to all of it, right? And
Francis Cress Wilson said it was something about that some fear of annihilation of the white race.
Well, there's that. Yeah, absolutely. There's that. Don't go down that rabbit hole, because I tell you some things you wouldn't want to ever hear, right? But that's all very real. So let's bring it back and ground it.
I did want to just show you this though. This was the Catholic Church in Cuba, in Havana. And you see, this is like some kind of a doll, and I think this is like Lazarus.
Right.
Hopefully, like Lazarus or something like that.
Right.
That's it's a huge Catholic church that they take you to during the initiation, and you see other awos, coming in to different people that are getting they're getting initiated, and you see them come in like during the year in white, and
yeah, but it's interesting. If you look at Catholic doctrine, the not the last pope, but the pope before the last pope said officially in his role as pope that you can practice Santeria and Lukumi and be a good Catholic, but you cannot practice traditional African IFA and be a good Catholic. He said that.
what?
So that's telling. And the point is, I don't care what the Pope thinks. I'm not a Catholic. I have no interest in that. So let's try and bring this back to a little bit more of a positive spin here before we call it a class. Be careful about blaming your problems on being hexed. You need to take a long, hard look at what you're doing to create your own problems before you go there. Otherwise,
someone else is giving to you. Someone else is doing it.
If someone, okay, let me just end with
someone else's thoughts affect your, or maybe not. Maybe unless you let it bother you, unless you let it do.
There, you're getting close. Listen, I'm going to say something. I'm going to end with this because it's the most important thing to understand in this conversation. Hexing is based on jealousy. Jealousy is based on human greed. Human greed is based on making judgments of other people. IFA is based on alignment with destiny. When you're in alignment with destiny, you're in alignment with God's will because you're aligning yourself with the divinity within you. And here's the point. Hear me clearly. In the conflict between human will, human jealousy, and human greed, in the conflict between that on one hand and God's will and destiny on the other hand, God's will always wins. So the only time that greed and jealousy can be effective as a form of hexing is when you let it. That's the only time it can be effective. It can never, ever, ever be effective as long as you're in alignment with your higher self.
Ashe, and thank you so
much. That's the way we were wired as humans. We'll talk again. Listen, let me say one last thing too. As of yesterday at 5 o'clock, I got my online video school completed. It should be up and available to the public by the next time we speak and get together. I have it's actually at this point a 9, possibly 10-part free course on divination at the school. And then I have a 25-part course that explains how we do all of our initiation. It comes along with a 500-page reference book. I'll bring the reference book next time we get together and show it to people. That course is going to be $500. And, I want people to consider teaching themselves how to do initiation, because the point of initiation in Africa is to initiate our children and to do it for free. You were told that you can't initiate your children. And the reason you
couldn't initiate your own children. I heard you couldn't be your own child's guide.
Yeah, and whoever told you that has no understanding of IFA that's practiced in Africa. None. The whole point is to initiate your children and pass the ashe from one generation to the next. Every time I went to Africa, I bought the materials for the Araba to initiate his children. And it was a gesture around which he was deeply grateful. So the only expense for initiating your children is the expense of feeding people and palm oil and a few other things. And so there's no exchange of money when you initiate your children. And that's the whole point of initiation. You do a naming ceremony for your children. You do a puberty rite for your children. You do an initiation into Risa and Ifa for your children. You do an initiation into Egun for your children. You perform a marriage ceremony for your children. And when your children grow up and raise their own children, then you honor them as elders in the community. That's all family-based ritual.
That we've taken away from. And now we have no rituals. The only people that seem to be doing it in America right now is the Latin people with their quinceañera. That's the closest thing that we do see.
That's not true. The Jewish faith does puberty rites.
Mitzvah, yeah, they do that. Yeah, but I'm saying
quinceañera is close, but not quite. A puberty rite for women involves the grandmother's telling a young girl what it means to responsibly carry the ashe of being able to make babies. At quinceañera, they do that to some extent, but it's not universal. It's mostly, the quinceañera is mostly to announce to the community that young women are available for marriage. That's a slightly different than a puberty rite.
It is. Would you think that prom is a puberty rite? Like going to prom? Do you think that that's like some type of ceremony that we're doing? I know we have graduation from high school ceremony.
It's pretty much the same thing, I suspect. But we'll save that topic for another day. So I'm going to run. Thank you. I appreciate you as always. and hold a positive thought that I'll have the details for the school next time we get together.
Definitely will. Much love and appreciate you, Abuye.
Agbo Ato, stay safe.
Peace. Thank you, guys.
Just when I thought I couldn't find my way out, yeah, I searched the God in me to find my way out. I know it can seem way out, but the Creator flows to and through me from way out. I'm talking way out, yeah, yeah, yeah. See, if you believe in the God in you, it's a better place.